Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man yattaba'a hudah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this session of Maxims of Fiqh. Today, inshallah, we will talk about the third grand maxim, which is al-mashaqqatu tajlibu at-taysir. Difficulty brings ease. The hardship and the difficulty becomes reason and means for ease. That is the meaning of this maxim. The rulings that will cause difficulty for the mukallaf, the one who is of age, reached the age of puberty, the one who is sane, Sharia will make these things easy until the mukallaf is able to perform that thing without the hardship. Now, this maxim has many evidences. From the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we find Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying in Surah Al-Baqarah, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. In the other surah, again in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the other ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Also, in the same ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal says, ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. When the Muslims invoked Allah with those du'as, Allah Azza wa Jal responded and said, قد فعلت, I did. Then also another evidence where Allah Azza wa Jal says, ما يريد الله ليجعل عليكم من حرج. And in the other ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal also says, ما يريد الله ليجعل عليكم في الدين من حرج. Also the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إن الله قد غفر لأمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكره عليه. Allah Azza wa Jal had forgiven my ummah for the error, forgetfulness, and what they were forced or coerced to do. All that means that the purpose of the religion is to make things easy. The obligations that are imposed are to make the life of the Muslim better. Although there are some difficulties sometimes within the act itself, but that is for the greater good. Now, the ease that is legislated in the Sharia is one of two types. The first type, the type is in principle legislated for ease. And this is the entire rulings of the religion of the Sharia in general. The purpose of the rulings of the Sharia is to make ease on people. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned that after the command of fasting. Some people mention the fasting and they say it is difficult. It is difficult. Fasting is difficult. Yet Allah Azza wa Jal said, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ. How imposing fasting for 3 days from dawn to dusk, without drinking, without eating, without having any sexual desire, how this is ease? It is beneficial. If you look at all the benefits, you find that there are a lot. Don't look only at what you are not getting, not eating and not drinking. There are many, many benefits. So that is the general ease. That is in the entire rulings of the Sharia. You live the life according to Islam and you will have an easy life. Then we have the second type of ease, is the type that is legislated for the excuses, like the concessions. When you are traveling, instead of praying 4 rak'ah, you can pray 2 rak'ah. You can combine the prayers. So this is a concession. And the concession is the ruling that is based on the excuse, while generally it is forbidden. Why it is legislated for an excuse? Because of the difficulty. Because of the difficulty. An example for this would be the sickness. The sickness is a concession. So you don't have to fast if you are sick. Traveling also is a concession. When you are traveling, you don't have to fast. And the prayer could be combined and could be shortened as well. So all these are concessions. And this shows that the purpose of the rulings in the Sharia, imposing those rulings, is not really to make life difficult on the mukallaf. It is only to regulate the life and to organize the people and to make them on the straight path. Now, the types of difficulty that we have to understand the maxim, because some people say if there is ease, brought with difficulty, that means we can have concession in every aspect of the ibadah. That is incorrect, because we need to distinguish between the types of difficulty. The first type, the type that is in the regular limits, and that is included in almost all the types of the ibadat, and that does not necessitate any ease. Like what? In prayer, when you want to pray, you need to perform wudu. And when you perform wudu, you are putting the water over your body. Sometimes it is cold and the water is cold. Sometimes it is hot and the water is hot. That is difficulty, but that is normal, in the normal stages. Same thing when you want to pray, you are going to stand up, you're going to bow, you're going to prostrate yourself. All that is within the boundaries of ability of the mukallaf. So these do not necessitate any concession, any ease. Then we have the difficulty of extreme measure, and that is attributed to one of the things that is added. Another example for the difficulty that is within the normal means, in addition to the prayer, fasting. When you are fasting in a long day in the summer, that is difficult, but it is still with the normal means, and that does not necessitate any extra ease, any concession. Then we have the difficulty that is new, or that is attributed to additional thing, not the act itself. When we have the act itself that is within the normal means, and we have something attributed to it, here we have three levels. The first level, where this act becomes very difficult. In general, it is normal, it is possible within the hands of the person, but now it became very difficult, and that is an excuse, and it would become a concession. Like what? Taking a bath, that is normal, and everyone can take a bath. However, if it was very cold day in the winter, and the water was very cold water, that you cannot heat it, there is no heater, what do you do here? You might take a bath. Yeah, it might not kill you, but there is very strong hardship here involved. So do you have to take the bath? Scholars said no. This is a concession where you don't have to take a bath, you could use tayammum instead. That is an example of the very severe difficulty. The act usually is normal, taking a bath. Anyone can take a bath, but there are circumstances attributed. The first thing is that it is very cold day. Second thing is that it's very cold water, and there is nothing to help you to heat it or to get the heat yourself. So here we say this is a concession. Then we have a very light difficulty that is attributed to the act, and normally it is not from the act itself. Like what? You want to fast and you had a headache in your head. That is a difficulty. Usually people, they don't have headaches. Some people, they have headaches, but usually in normal circumstances you don't have headache. Now you have to fast and you have a headache. Is that headache severe? No, it is not severe. It's just light. Or your finger is injured. That is not severe. That's very light. Does it affect the act? Does it warrant you a concession? No. You still have to fast. Then we have the third level, which is in the middle, between those two levels, between the severe level and between the very light level. Like what? If you have a fever, you want to fast, but you have a fever. That fever could reach 101 degrees, 102 degrees. Still, you might be capable of fasting, but it will be very difficult. Or we don't say very difficult, it will be somewhat difficult. Do you have to fast? Now, in this level, it depends. Is it closer to the first level where it is very difficult? So we say you cannot fast and you have a concession, or we say it's very light and go ahead and break your fast. So these are the levels of difficulty. One of them is neglected, it's very light. One of them is warranted, it's very hard. And one of them in the middle, that depends whether it's closer to the first level, very severe, or it's very light, it's insignificant. Then we have the concession themselves that lead to the ease. Why do we have concessions? Now we talked about the difficulty, and now we talk about the cause of making that difficulty easy. The causes are either from the act of the mukallaf himself, from the act of the person himself, or it's beyond his control, something that he had no control over. Like what? When you are a child, you don't have to pray. You're not liable. Now, this is not in your control. This is a cause of ease. Allah Azza wa Jal did not hold the children accountable just like the adults. The same thing for the one who is asleep. Imagine if you are liable for your actions even when you are asleep. That will be hard, because when you are asleep, you don't control your behavior. You don't control your actions. You are subconscious. You're not in your conscious. So Allah Azza wa Jal made that a cause for ease, and it is not within your ability. Then we have causes by the mukallaf himself, like when you travel. This is something you did, but Allah Azza wa Jal made that a cause for ease. Or when you err, when you make a mistake, this is something you did, but you didn't do it intentionally. It was unintentional. Still, that is a cause of concession. Now, the reasons for ease, those who bring ease, some scholars limited them in seven. Seven causes for ease. The first one they say is traveling. Traveling is a means of ease. The second one is sickness, when you are sick. The third one is the coercion, when you are under duress. The fourth one is forgetfulness. And the fifth one is the ignorance, when you don't know the ruling and you did it out of ignorance. The sixth one is the difficulty. And that's what we have been talking about from the beginning of the session. Then finally, the shortcoming, the inability. That is the last one of the cause of ease. Then we have the ignorance, which is really an excuse, because many people would say, I was ignorant, I did not know. Even ignorance itself, at one level, it is an excuse. At another level, it is not an excuse. Even, not only, we're not talking about fiqh now, we're talking about the entire religion, the entire principles of religion. Someone disbelieves in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he says, I did not know. Is that accepted from him or no? Someone drank khamr. He drank alcohol and he did not know that it is forbidden. Is that an excuse? You caught someone, you are from the men of enjoining good and forbidding evil. You were appointed by the ruler and you found someone drinking khamr. There has to be punishment. When you told him why you are drinking, he said, oh, I don't know that it is forbidden. Is that an excuse? You would say no, definitely not. Who does not know that khamr is haram? Maybe he does not. Maybe. How? If he was a new Muslim. And we had people who accepted Islam recently, just a day ago, yesterday, or 2 days ago, and they did not know. In their case, it is actually an excuse. In their case. So sometimes the ignorance is valid and sometimes it is invalid. Now, this could be either way. The ignorance of the new Muslim who is ignorant of something that is very obvious. But if that same excuse was produced by someone who has been a Muslim for a long time, it would not be accepted. So there is invalid ignorance and there is a valid ignorance. Now, the valid excuse is one of three types. The ignorance that is excused is the ignorance of the mujtahid, the one who is exerting his effort to perform ijtihad, to reach a legal ruling. If he made a mistake while he is trying to reach the correct opinion, still he is rewarded, even though he was wrong. And his ignorance here is actually forgiven. Not only that, but he is rewarded. Many people do not understand the idea that there is a difference between error and sin. in the position of the mujtahid, he's not sinful because he's trying his best to reach the correct opinion. In that case, he's rewarded. Just by trying his best, he's rewarded. If he got the correct answer, then he's rewarded twice. If he did not get the correct answer, then he is rewarded once. So there is no connection between ignorance and error or sin. The next ignorance, which is forgiven and valid, is the ignorance of the Muslim in the land of war. If he was raised, if he lived in a land where all of them are non-Muslims, he did not know the rulings of Islam, that ignorance is also accepted. Why? Because there was no chance for him to learn. Another type of the ignorance that is excused is the ignorance of the laymen, the individuals in regards to the detailed matters, to the detailed issues of fiqh, because they are laymen. Otherwise, everybody would be a scholar. You cannot expect everyone to know every single thing of the fiqh. They need to know the principles of the religion, but then they are excused with the details. These are valid excuses, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made those as means for ease. Now, the types of concessions that we have in religion, we mentioned the prayer, for instance, like shortening the prayer. That is a concession of reduction, reducing. We have the concession of omission, omitting totally the act. You don't have to do the act. Like what? Women during their menstruation, do they have to pray? No. Do they make up? No. So it's gone. That is a concession of omission. Then we have the concession of decreasing, as we said, the concession of the prayer. Then we have the concession of alternation, where you have to do an act, but because of difficulty, you replace it with another act. An example for this would be tayammum. We have a concession of advancement or delaying, like the prayer. You can pray in advance or you could pray later. You could combine the prayers. Why? Due to difficulty during traveling. And we have the concession of necessity, where you do the act and in regular circumstances you cannot do it. But due to the necessity, like drinking khamr or eating the pork, that was because of necessity, it was allowed. And finally, we have the concession of changing the description of the act. And this is an example of the fear prayer. When someone is praying and the enemy is ahead of him, and he changed the prayer as a fear prayer when there is a group. This is explained very well in the Book of Allah and in the Sunnah. Those beautiful examples are manifestation of the greatness of the religion, that our religion is the religion of ease. All these examples, they show the beauty of our religion, that indeed the actions that are in our religion, they are made only to make our life easy. Some people think that, oh, this is haram, then everything is haram. No, actually in our religion, most things are halal. But many people, they ask only about what is haram. You're not allowed to eat only few things. You're not allowed only to drink few things. That's it. Everything else is halal. I will stop here inshallah and I will continue next time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.